Okay, welcome everyone to this little vlog, this little podcast from the shop. The shop. The social hub of positivity. I love saying that. It makes me feel so shop-like and positive. Well, today we're not doing we've been doing lots of local politicians, and fair play to them all for doing it really. Obviously, during the pandemic, it's been harder to canvass, so artists have been quite disappointed, and so are the politicians. But here we are. Today we've got a member of the public. Have you ever been described, young Sam, as a member of the public before?
No.
Good. Now the reason why I'm interviewing Sam, because Sam came in, we had a chat about all sorts of stuff and got many interests, mutual interests, children for instance. But I was quite interested about some of the local activities, particularly in your road, in your street, that you've been doing as a collective to help each other get through the lockdowns and what have you. But before we get into that, do you want to just give the three people that are now watching this podcast a little bit about yourself and about your background?
Yeah, so my name's Sam, obviously. I'm a creative content designer by trade, which kind of covers everything really. I mean, that covers pretty much illustration, animation, kind of videography as well.
Yeah.
So when I graduated in 2000, where I studied illustration and animation at university, and to be honest, it was one of those things where I kind of tried to avoid computers as much as I could.
Yeah.
I didn't think I'd need it. I thought, yeah, it'd be fine. Traditional animation, traditional illustration should be fine.
Yeah.
And I really regret doing that because, like I said last time, as soon as I graduated, Toy Story was out and everything was computer animated.
Yeah.
So it was. It's been a big old catch up, to be honest.
Yeah.
And you know, you sort of leave university and you kind of think, well, actually, do you know what? It's kind of like I'm on my own here now. I better go and get a job in Little Chef, which I did.
Little Chef,
yeah.
Fair play.
So it's like it's just one of those things where it's just kind of like, you know, you get rejection letter after rejection letter, and you just think, oh my God, it's just not gonna sort of break through in this.
Yeah.
So therefore, I just sort of you know, I kind of picked up some online tutorials and learned how to do animation in what was called Flash at the time, which is like a kind of vectorized sort of form of animation. So it wasn't the hand-drawn stuff. I did send them for an example of an animation I did at university, and that was all.
Do you know what? We should have a little example of that, Jules, right now. I'm not going to keep this face until that clip's finished, but hopefully right now, that little bit of animation, which I actually really liked. So just to give a clue to the people at home, how would you have done that? The thing that we've just seen.
The
chairs.
Yeah, it was using stop frame.
Yeah.
So you have like a plastic peg bar, and you have, in this case, it's A5 pieces of paper. A4 was too expensive. I was a student trying to save money.
Right.
And you have a light box, and you basically have your peg bar taped to the light box, and you just basically you trace. Yeah.
Right. And keep going.
So you storyboard it all out.
Yeah.
So I had in my mind, you know, I used to walk my dog when he used to come home from university, and I remember once it just ran off chasing after a cat.
Yeah.
And I didn't. It went off for ages.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, what has it been doing? Because I'd love to. Nowadays, you could probably put like a little webcam on it, like a little camera on their car and see what they get up to.
They do it at home, don't they? I always thought that. They do now. Do it.
But back in those days, it was like, well, do you know what? I'd love to know where it's been and what's happened. So I thought, well, it's a really good idea for an animation. And I was quite into Frank Zappa at the time, and the Gumbo Variations, which is the track I used on there, just reminded me of a dog chase, or a cat and dog chase. Yeah. Because it was just kind of like, it had that kind of like, that intensity to it and that kind of madness. And I just thought what an opportunity to do that. So yeah, storyboarded it up, and I just started drawing. And it was kind of like, you had to, obviously you had your peg bar, you had your drawing, so you do the keyframes first of all. You get your, when I say keyframes, they're the kind of like, if you get a keyframe animator, he'll be the main kind of guy that would just put the keyframes together, and then you've got the in-betweeners, the sort of the junior guys that come and kind of like work out the in-between frames between frame 1 and 5, for example.
Right.
So they get the frame 3, and then they do the in-between frame 1 and 3, and they get frame 2 done, if that makes sense. So it's kind of that.
Does it to Jules? That's what I want to know. Jules is our animator.
Yeah.
He's this is interesting. Do you know everything what Sam's talking about?
Yeah.
Should we swap places? Is this good? Is this interesting for you?
Yeah, no, this is very.
This is an interview within an interview.
He explained like keyframe animators and in-betweens better than I could. I'd just be like, oh yeah, so you got key drawings that you get.
Yeah. Be good when you see some of Jules' stuff, which I've interviewed him, and we're going to be showing that actually, possibly before this one or not. But here's the interesting thing: is the reason why I want you to go into it is because a lot of art and a lot of animation or things that people see is on television, or it's either, like you said Toy Story, or it's traditional cartoons, or whatever it is. It's always someone else doing it. Mm-hmm. It's always out there. It's like music videos, it's like music, it's like films, it's like whatever. All this technology, all this art in the shop and everything else is about people who are doing it, and they're accessible. So you showing your work is important. Explaining it is great because it's demystifying it for people. Because part of the thing about the lockdown and any other scenario where people have enforced isolation, and I'm not even talking about prison, is what do you do? How do you get through it? What are the things that people are helping with people's mental health? And we're doing lots on mental health for obvious reasons. Is it something that you've been doing throughout the pandemic?
No.
You've not at all. You've not got back into doing your animation because you do it still as a job, don't you?
I do as a job, but it's a different kettle of fish, really. It's all kind of After Effects based. You probably know what that entails. It's kind of like you're not really stop framing anymore. You're not really drawing them by hand. Kind of technologies kind of changed that all. Yeah. I mean, in some ways it's a lot better. I mean, I could do animations on an iPad now. Yeah. So, for example, you'll have layers. So, back in the old days, you used to use celluloid and have a background.
Yes, celluloid. That's right. And then flip. Yeah.
Yeah, and then just like different elements on top of that. Yeah. Just be animated, and it just saves a lot of time. And obviously, you don't want to repeat stuff. Yeah. That animation, by the way, it was every frame was illustrated. There was no celluloid at all.
Yeah. On the chase.
Yeah, on the chase.
Wow. So how long did that take? Because obviously people have seen at least 30 seconds of it, right? 30 seconds, because if it's got a copyright track, we can't use it more than that. So how long did that take you?
So that was 3 minutes, and that was 15 frames a second.
Yeah.
Which works out 2,700 drawings. Individual drawings. I mean, the pile, I've chucked most of the drawings out because it's taken up too much space in the attic, but it was that high of just drawings. Yeah. So it took a lot of time just to sit at a light box and just draw, and that was it. But you know what? I loved it. I was in the element. It was just like, it was the best thing. Because to actually have the privilege of actually creating a short film from what's in your head is something which it's quite a unique thing. Yeah. You never get that chance to do that again all yourself outside of university because you just commercially.
Unless you're getting exactly. Unless someone's saying, here's a load of money and a load of paper and some pens. Fill your boots. Whenever you finish, whatever you finish, brilliant. That doesn't happen, does it?
Unless you're Nick Park, which is a very, very rare thing.
Yeah, so. But how did he get to that position where he could do it?
He got funding from. Well, he basically showed his Grand Day Out project to Arben, and they said, "This is great. You've got a lot of talent. We'll fund the rest of it."
Yeah, exactly. But
there you go.
What happened for him to get to that stage? Hours and hours of him developing the process, techniques, originality, creativity, possibly working with other people. I don't know what his full story is, but it's that, isn't it? So anything usually you say this overnight success scenario. Yeah. Overnight in what field? Because they've been working at that for years and years. Let's say 10,000 hours, isn't it? Yeah. To be good at something, to be truly good at something.
Yeah, I think it's you just need to have a passion. Yes. You're not going to devote that time into it unless you've got the passion.
Absolutely.
And it's an absolute labour of love. I mean, if you think, I mean, for example, I knew there was an end game. There was a result at the end of it, which was worth pursuing because I kind of had in my head the start and the end of the story.
Yeah.
So therefore, that was the kind of the driver for me to just crack on with it and just get as much as I could done.
Yeah.
But yeah, in the real world, and it's in the commercial world, it's kind of like it's budgets are tight. Budgets are even tighter now.
Yeah.
I was working for the automotive industry a couple of years ago. That was an interesting job. It was kind of like creating learning materials for dealers and
Show these kids that. Oh, not that sort of dealer. You mean? Oh, I see. Yes, that makes more sense. Yeah, wouldn't it? In a car dealership, got a dodgy car and a dodgy dealer. Here, have some of this. It'll make you drive erratically, but you won't care.
Or slow, depending.
Yes. If you go to Barnard Castle, watch out for your eyes.
So yes, it is different now, but the fundamentals are still the same. You've still got to make stuff move.
Yeah.
You've got to engage the brain.
Yeah.
And when you're providing like learning materials or like an e-learning module, for example, people still want to see an introduction. They want to kind of be kind of introduced into the subject, and animation is the best way for that, because you're kind of, especially nowadays with the YouTube generation, our concentration levels are pretty. We want instant gratification, instant information, and animation is a way to do that. So
it's an interesting one, because even these two that are filming this right now, they turned off in their brains after we clapped. After we did the clap for good evening. That's how long, how short the modern young brain. And now, I've talked to this to another artist, and there's an advert that Steve, what's his name? Steve Coogan, who's an absolute genius. What his little stinger for this new advert is, if you're between 4 and 24, you know, it's something about their concentration. It's a thing now. As I talked to this other artist today, it's a thing that other adults have forced our children into. The whole, the way the brain works, and all these social media, but all these tablets and everything else. Even my youngest child, telephones. Adults have made them. So it's adults and parents and what have you that are responsible for the lack of ability to concentrate. Now, they might say it differently. They might think, actually, in truth, particularly with these interviews, there is only about 30 seconds of interest, and usually that's the goodbye bit. I wonder what that is. You've got children yourself. What do you think? Have you noticed what could you imagine one of your children doing? No disrespect to them, it's not their fault that I'm boring, or that we don't have the ability to listen for more than whatever it is. Do you think one of your children would have the wherewithal to be able to take the time to do the drawings that you did to do the chase, for instance?
No.
Right.
The reason for that is, well, for my case, it was like that kind of, the technology wasn't there back when I did that.
Yeah.
So for me to have a light box, for me to have a camera which could actually string all these drawings together was a facility that I didn't have access to.
Right.
So when you had that facility, it was like, oh my god, I can make stuff move.
Yeah.
I can make a video. And from an early age, my kids had animation apps where they could do stop frame.
Right.
They used to use their Lego, which is great, because Lego's so good for that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So you can make the little vehicles move.
Yeah, and we do loads of that stuff. But
it's great.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
But that is already there for them. It's like it's like when kids do GarageBand. It's like to have a recording studio, you'd have to go 20 years ago. You just to have that facility would have been unfeasible. Yeah. And it's kind of like, in some ways, it's kind of taken that little bit of organic enjoyment out of it.
And need to collaborate. I mean, not so much with animation, but certainly with music. I mean, you're right, GarageBand and all those manner of apps that you can make music, art, film, edit with, the GarageBand thing that you can have all those musicians or instruments mixed in with your song when you might be quite, like myself, a basic guitar player, but you can have all sorts of musicians joining in, and when you finish with the musicians, you can have drummers and bass players as well that can join in too. That's for all the drummers and bass players out there that I've ever played with, and that has ever been in a band or not a band. Yeah, that's all the people in Canada that play drums and bass. Good luck to you, lads. Good luck to you. Anyway, sorry, Sam.
Is that Bob Geldof?
Do you know what? It sounded a little bit like Bob Geldof.
Stick a few F words.
No, I couldn't do Bob Geldof without swearing. So I thought, what's my name? I don't care about the addresses. Just send them in money. Okay, that's not Bob Geldof. He's a good lad. Well done, Bob. Anyway, sorry. Let's get back to focus, concentration. Yes, modern technology. So there's been lots of good stuff, lots of developments. Jules uses a what is that pad that you've got that you do a lot of the drawing on? What is that called?
The graphics tablet.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's the one I can do.
Is that what you're talking about? The sort of thing.
It was.
Yeah.
And then the iPad came out with a pencil.
Wow.
Which is so much more It's so much better.
Yeah.
It's so much more responsive.
Yeah.
It's much more accurate. And that's kind of, it's funny, it's done away with tablets.
What?
Well, I mean, you can still get professional tablets, but do you know, I prefer to actually see what I'm drawing as opposed to drawing on a tablet. It's on the screen.
And then seeing it on the screen.
Just my editing.
So so is that what you use for your job now?
Sometimes, yeah. So if I'm doing like sometimes I did like an explainer video, and 10 years ago, explainer videos were everywhere. It's like the TED Talks. You had a little kind of line animation that showed cartoon characters. Yeah. They weren't animated, but the actual animation was in the actual creation of the image.
Yeah.
Which was a really cheap way of doing it, and I did that a lot because it was just all the effort was into the actual illustrations. When you put it onto they used Flash at the time, but basically you just erased out the drawing,
right,
and then reversed it so it looked like it was moving. And then you took five pictures of your hand, and then just in different positions, and it just give that illusion. You stuck it over the top of it, lined it up with the actual line of the drawing, and it just gave this illusion that it was been created in front of you by someone who's very clever, can actually draw stuff in front of the camera, no pressure whatsoever. So that was all the rage about 10 years ago, but it still works now, and I still use the iPad for that because it's just, you can just do it. You can do it on the iPad. I use something called Adobe Sketch, which is it's just a drawing application, but the pressure sensitivity of the pencils are so good that you can create an organic image. And once you've got that, you've got a digital copy of it. Yeah. It just goes into your computer, into After Effects, and you can just do what you want with it. Yeah. You can put it into 3D layers. There's so much you can do with it. You can colorize it. You can, it's just there's too many options to be honest.
So explain a bit about how you apply your skills in the job that you're doing now. Explain your job, actually. Maybe.
Like
Top secret, can't talk about it, Ed. Sorry. Gotta go now. Had enough, you young'uns? Enough adults talking much stuff? Sorry, Sam. Just I have to stoke the fire with these young gentlemen, otherwise they may attack. Carry on.
It's how can I apply it? So nowadays it's kind of like a lot of my job is kind of graphic design. Yeah. So when I kind of left university, it was one of those. It's clear to me that freelance illustration is quite a difficult thing to get into. Yeah. Graphic design, on the other hand, is a more commercially viable trade. Yeah. So a lot of illustrators will pick up graphic design as well because it makes commercial sense. Yeah. So a lot of my stuff is graphic design, but it does tie in quite well. It ties in with, when you're creating. For example, you'll design an e-learning module, but then you'll animate the introduction, and you'll animate certain elements of the e-learning to keep the engagement going. I mean, you've heard of death by PowerPoint. You get the same thing with e-learning. Some people just hate being in front of a computer and just going for the phone.
I'm two of those people. I am.
Yeah. So it's kind of just there to keep that engagement going. Yeah. And that's the fun bit of it, because if you can kind of create stuff which is engaging, you find it engaging yourself. Yeah. When it's when there's certain projects which are quite, budget restricted, it can kind of be a little bit soul destroying because you're just trying to create templates all the time and trying to make things as quick as possible, and that's where the kind of fun gets taken out of it. But occasionally you get a project which is a creative one, and then you're just like, this is good, this is great. Yeah.
Right, so you've done that, you're doing that. What happened? What were you doing within the? I keep saying within the pandemic, we're kind of still there, and bless people in India. Don't know when this thing's going out, but let's hope that's been sorted out a bit more than this. It's ironic, isn't it, that they're a country that's producing most of the vaccines, and yet hundreds and thousands of them apparently are dying. So I don't know when this is going out. It'll be sooner rather than later, and it'll be quite interesting because we've done one with Jules as well, who's as we said, an animator, multi-talented lad. Who's lad? He's not a lad. What did I say, lad? He's a man. He's a man. I'll fight him. Oh my God, he's got a gun. Yeah, when you said about what was happening during the pandemic, you were around Loudon, aren't you?
Yeah.
Right. So I was absolutely overjoyed, by the way, when you told me. So can you give the good folk who are listening to this a little précis of what was going on down your roads? I don't know who that is.
It's a good Welsh accent, though.
Is it Welsh? Yeah.
Oh, I can't do a Scouse accent without swearing.
yeah. Got me out of trouble a few times.
So during the pandemic, or during the lockdown, I got my furloughed, which was a bit of a shock to the system, but it kind of gave me I call it the great pause, but I did feel like it was a pause.
Yeah.
And actually, it was kind of one of those things where everything kind of stopped, and it's like, well, actually, do you know what? It was kind of the weather's good, and a lot of people are in the same position, and I just thought, because we're in a kind of mid-terrace street, and it's
lovely road, actually.
It's a lovely road. It's quite close to the train station as well, so you do generally get people that live there who kind of, I guess, commute, because it's quite well placed for that kind of thing. But you kind of don't really kind of know anyone. At the time, you didn't really know anyone on the street. You could walk past people, you think they look familiar, but do they live in the street? I'm not sure if they do.
Yeah.
So I just thought, well, actually, you know what, you got this Facebook out there. Let's create a page, a community group, and put a few leaflets together with the name of the group on there, and just put them through the people's doors saying, here's a Facebook group if you want to kind of join, and if you don't do Facebook, there's a WhatsApp group you can join as well.
Wicked. Well done.
And here's my address if you don't do any technology. You want to write me a letter?
How many of them did you get?
2 of them.
Did you? Wow, that's brilliant. Oh no, that's great.
So yeah, I mean, it was really good because communication started, people started joining, and it, I think I've tried that before, like for like a little kind of clear up at the alleyway around the back of our house, and it didn't really kind of catch on that well. Yeah. But I think when people actually thought, well, do you know what, we need to communicate now. Yeah. There's kind of older people in the street, and they kind of, if they need something, it'd be quite good to have that kind of that network around them. And it just went really well. It was just kind of people started talking to each other, people started to introduce themselves.
Amazing what it takes for people to talk. It does amaze me that they don't talk as much.
Well, they didn't. We're very kind of, we just get on with it. We're very focused. We get to work, and that's kind of, we get back home and it's downtime. You don't really sort of engage with other people, I guess.
And they're right there as part of the problem, isn't it? As a society, as a community, that which binds us, the common unity of us. We don't have social arenas. If you go to the pub, that's a social arena, but you don't necessarily talk to people in the pub. You might go with your friends. Where do people, so it's amazing that you thought to do that. Were you optimistic, or do you think that the pandemic was a suitably big interruption to everyone's lives that they had to sort of readdress things?
Yeah, definitely, because it's like when they had was it V-Day?
Yeah.
So that everyone came out for that, and that wouldn't have happened before because people generally kind of go away on the weekend. But you got a kind of captive audience. Yeah. So that was
so really good. What, on your whole street?
Yeah.
What? So bunting and all that sort of good stuff.
Yeah. Wow. So we did that, and another good thing as well. I mean, charity shops were closed, so people kind of like, first thing people did was sort all their rubbish out, and they had a bit of time, so people had lots of stuff to kind of get rid of. Yeah. But through the Facebook group, people could post things that they had available, and it's amazing how many people kind of, one man's trash is another man's treasure, isn't it?
Absolutely.
So to some extent, we're becoming like a self-sustainable street, which is great because it's like, and we had loads of soil at the back, and because we were doing like our allotments at the time down the alleyway, we were growing our own food, which would never have happened any other time.
Have you got photographs of this? Not because I don't believe you, I just think as a visual thing, it'd be great if Jules is looking at me again, he's getting his knuckles out. What are you doing with your knuckle? That's a knuckle duster, isn't it? A self-fashioned one. What have you made that from? Wow. Bet his grandma's teeth are missing. Anyway.
That's what I made it from.
Yeah, exactly. So you growing food as a commune sort of scenario?
Well, yeah, because it was like we had a patch. I had it didn't really belong to anybody. It was just an alleyway that kind of had access to the back of the houses.
Yeah.
But yeah, some of us started growing our own food, and we had like loads of soil left over, and we'll actually put like a thing out on the Facebook saying there's loads of soil around here if you want some.
Wow.
And people came around with their wheelie bins, and it all went. I mean, it's just like the fact that people could kind of put requests out there, or for certain things, or people could say I've got loads of this stuff and got loads of bricks, and someone on the street would have taken it, would have needed it.
Yeah.
So it just felt like it was a very self-sustainable kind of way of communication, and it just went down really well. And I mean, last Christmas we had a Christmas light switch on in the street.
In the street,
which everyone came out for again. I mean, it wasn't it would have been nice to get sort of like maybe mulled wine out and stuff, but it was a bit obviously hygiene and everything else with the pandemic. Probably wouldn't have done that, but next year hopefully.
Do you think that this is what I was going to say? So, in a time of crisis, a certain amount of people understand the importance of. Previously, we were taught to live in an Englishman's home is his castle. Don't know how many people have got castles out there, people, but fair play to you if you have. Even the people in Newcastle haven't got castles. So how come everyone's got a castle? They haven't. Basically, we're taught, especially from Thatcher's times, that there's no such thing as society. Isolation, separation, which has been an absolute disaster as a social experiment. Well done. In a time of a war or pandemic, people come together. How long does it last, though? How long will you, as a street, be talking, sharing, recycling, living a more sustainable lifestyle, and supporting each other and sharing resources? So, like you said, some people got extra bricks, some people got extra soil, mixy, local economic trading scheme. Everyone's looking after each other, caring for the elderly, the young. How long do you think that will last? Do you think that this is a thing that we all move on, or people just go back into their shells, as it were?
Some people will.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of people have made that point, especially on Facebook, like, this is really good, let's not lose this, even when, we're back to some sort of normality.
Yeah.
So I think it's in the back of people's heads are thinking, it's kind of quite liable to sort of fade away, but I don't think it will. I think if you keep the sort of lines of communication open, and you kind of organise, certain events or something in the street, a Christmas light switch on.
It could be fantastic.
People just. I know things will be different. The people won't be so stuck in the street. People will be out and about, and it's a bit hard to get people tied down to a certain date. I still think it will be, a means of communication, and I don't think we'll lose that.
Wow, that's fantastic.
I like to think that anyway.
What was the highlight of it? I know it's a bizarre scenario to talk about a highlight in a time that at one stage, possibly because we have a buffoon for a Prime Minister, I was, as a person who's quite hyper-vigilant, thinking, wow, this literally could go anywhere. I mean, there's all sorts of conspiracy theories and what have you, but a virus is a virus is a virus, and if we haven't got a cure for it, and potential is we don't really know the effects, cause effects, we know a bit more now, and we don't know its origins, but we've got a few ideas. Here's the crack. When we move forward as a society, and I'm saying your highlights, what would you say the things you will take away most from that particular interaction with your local community? What was the highlight, the thing we went, okay, this is working, or this feels like a worthwhile thing?
I think it was the fact that people kind of needed to have that connection. Yeah. When it's kind of stripped away from you, it's kind of like people are kind of like thinking, well, reevaluate things, and actually connection is quite important. Especially like you say, when everyone's so close together in mid-terrace, it's kind of like you kind of need to have that little bit of a community feel to it. but stuff like the allotment, we're still doing that. It's kind of like we learned from last time, because a lot of stuff we grew was just kind of tomatoes. Don't grow too many tomatoes. But again, we kind of had the tomatoes, and you just put them at the front and just say
and then people
post
collect
them out and say, look,
fantastic.
People come and collect them, and they went in like no time. So that's quite good. I was kind of thinking in my mind, well, actually, we'll have loads of vegetables left over or whatever, and people can you can have like a little. That didn't quite happen. But we learned a lot of stuff from the first time that will apply this time to grow certain things.
So you're going to do that as a seasonal thing, and then it's sort of local economic trading scheme where people are still in your street.
I don't know if it would go that far, but
in the sense that it's a bartering scenario, isn't it? So sometimes we have an allotment. So sometimes on the allotment, people have an excess of whatever, and we'll swap and share, and there'll be either it's planting stuff or the harvest you can share. How many people are involved in it on your street, would you say?
It's only down the back of our alleyway, so there's only three or four of us that are doing it. 3 or 4
is a start. What about the rest of the people?
I'm not sure what they do at the back of their allotment, but I mean, it's like you go back to sort of saying about local farms and stuff, and the importance of being sustainable, and it's kind of just a little bit of an element of that.
It's fantastic. It didn't exist.
No,
it didn't exist before this. I mean, so we're taking the best bits out of the pandemic, which, let's face it, as a species we kind of have to, optimistically. There's a whole we know now a tidal wave of mental health anyway. We know that lots of children have had arrested development. Now, as a TV program, it's genius, but as a state of mind for a young developing child, speech and all the other social aspects of growing up have been halted because of the pandemic. And we as an organisation are going to be running lots of catch-up scenarios for toddlers as well as teenagers and whatever, based on play, based on creativity, not maths and English, because the emphasis on maths and English has always been too high, in my opinion. And creativity provides us with exactly what we need, the ability to create. That means create solutions to challenges, problems, whatever, survival, whether it's emotional, physical, or whatever, economic. What would you say that the ingredients for you, as if you were now doing a manifesto for your street? Because if we look, each individual person taking responsibility to make a sustainable system, how you interact, how you use your resources, power, electricity, how you travel, what has anything fundamentally changed in your head about how you'll move forward? Not just as yourselves and in the street, do you think?
Yeah, I think it's. I mean, for example, like Can Do Arts, it's kind of like it's the creative element. I didn't realise you kind of existed, to be honest.
It's nice, isn't it? Taste millions of people to die around the planet for this geezer. It's just shameful.
But again, it's working with people.
Yeah.
It's working with youth, and it's kind of, it's. If you're kind of like creative, it's kind of like it's a bit of a bug, isn't it? You kind of catch creativity from other people.
Yeah.
And you find that when you're working with people, if you work with someone who's creative, the
joy of collaboration.
Never think of original ideas for myself. I'm always thinking of like see what other people have done, and just kind of think, well, could do something like that.
Yes.
And that's usually the best way of doing it.
Yeah.
Plagiarism is the way forward.
Until you get sued. That's where I'm coming in.
But yeah, I mean, again, it's like it's difficult at the moment because it's still technically in lockdown.
Oh, absolutely.
But going forward, it's like the Reset Festival you're doing.
Yeah.
That's just great. I think people will be more willing to embrace creativity now.
Yeah.
And be thankful for it, appreciate it more, appreciate what goes on behind it, and So yes, I do think it's like seeing things like the shop. It's
fact that it's lovely watching people, and more and more artists and community groups are getting involved, like Doorway. Do you know anything about Doorway, the homeless?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're brilliant. So there'll be more stuff to know about them in here in a few weeks' time. Rotarians. I mean, if you don't know, people, you might do, but people don't know about the Rotarians. There's going to be information here, but they've been doing amazing stuff behind the scenes to help groups and individuals. They do it anyway, but we've been really grateful for their support through the pandemic, because I keep going on about it, we haven't got anywhere to take our vulnerable young people, even though we were working as, and still are, key workers throughout the pandemic. That collaboration, social collaboration, that what we'd call social cohesion, is really important, but it seems to have been missing in too many important areas of our communities prior to the pandemic. So creativity, moving forward, what do you think needs to happen? What would you want to change even or improve in our community? What do you see as a priority?
Things like this.
Yeah.
The fact that the high street is changing, and it's going to change even more.
Yeah.
People kind of, I think it needs to be, people kind of come to engage, people go to coffee, that's why so many coffee shops, because people just love to sort of engage. But when you actually sort of come here and you can see artwork on the walls, see what other people are doing, it's that kind of like, I think that's the way things should be going forward. I think there's kind of more, we're a very connected society. There's no excuse not to be, really.
Yeah.
So it'd be nice to think more places like this could pop up.
Well, we're obviously delighted and work a lot with Emery Gate, and we're doing, I don't know when this is going to go out, but we're doing our mental health week between the 10th and the 14th of May. So let's put this out before it, regardless, so we can use it as an advert. Thanks, Sam. But they're really good people. That Eagle One are the company that own Emery Gate, but they're always up for years. We've done lots of fundraising gigs and stuff in the atrium, and now we've got this beautiful space and Riverbank Studios downstairs. We've got lots of musicians, artists, mental health practitioners. We have people coming in from all sorts of backgrounds, just saying, oh, look, they're reading stuff in the window and go, I do this, I'm bereavement. It's like, wow, solid gold. Like yourself, sort of. Didn't really know we existed, and are kind of glad that they found us, and vice versa, by the way. The artists and the people that have been involved in just this, Rose Toner with a recycled, refashioned fashion, all that sort of interlinking stuff is now, so people are now linking up and working on different projects together, which obviously we're going to hopefully do with you. Tell me this, young man, because we have a shared bit of history in a way, which I didn't realise until we met. Used to, obviously, your dad, who I am reliably informed by ex-2 Squadron friends of mine, your father is geet hard, is like really, really respected, isn't he? Really fit. Is he presumably he's still with us, is he? Yeah, good. I didn't want to sort of go, we died last weekend. Okay, wrong put. I've done a bad one there. You come from a military background as well. Yeah. But, and even more possibly, because I mean, people don't know what 2 Squadron, who they were. That one of the only, are they probably the only paratroopers in the RAF?
Yeah.
And therefore, at the thick of it, when they're doing, I mean, your father was right up there and doing. Like equivalent to the SAS, if I'm not mistaken. What his ability and his fitness, is he still that sort of fit?
I think once you kind of got that mentality, you just don't lose it. But he's still pretty. Yeah.
So coming from a military background, how did you end up being? I said the same thing about myself. How did you end up being so creative? Think about that, people.
I don't know. I think my mum was quite creative.
Yeah.
So my mum used to do. She was a China painter, so she used to sort of work around all the primary schools and used to do China painting with them. My brother joined the Marines, so he went along that route. Yeah. When I did leave university, I thought I'm going to try the TA, the reservist, the Marine reservist, just to see if it was in my blood, and it so wasn't.
Yeah. No. I did the ATC, Air Training Corps. Yeah, ATC.
Yeah.
Do the Air Training Corps as well, because my, as I said, my dad was in the RF as well, and it's just like, how the hell did they put up with this? How the hell did my father and anyone else? Listen, I love the geezers that the camaraderie. That's the
one thing.
Brilliant. So anywhere we would go, an RAF, Army, Navy, whatever, and also in the Irish, same thing, Irish Army. My brother was in the Irish Army 35 years. I get it. The rationale behind having armies and having military and everything else, particularly from the perspective of this country, because obviously it was used mainly to go and rob other countries. But there is an element about being a part of that community which is really enhanced, isn't it? That there is, like the families officer, there's all the facilities, because you're moving whole communities, and you have to kind of if you're lucky. How did you cope with that, by the way? You know, some kiddies it destroys moving every 3 years. What was it like for you?
Well, we were every 2 years.
Yeah.
So it was challenging, but it was in some ways it's quite nice, because I think we said this before. You didn't actually really only doing your schoolwork. You're thinking, oh, well, do that.
That's exactly. They ain't gonna get me. They ain't gonna catch me like they cared. Such a strange thought. Yeah. I definitely had that.
But it's really strange, because after 2 years, you do kind of embed yourself. You do kind of make new mates and stuff. And it was so every 2 years we moved up to Catterick as well. Yeah. Then we moved. I went from primary school, Stan St Quinton, very quite quaint little school, up to quite a rough school in Scotland, near Arbroath. And that was a real shock to the system. Yeah. So it's kind of like that. It was that, and you're learning a different curriculum as well. It's like the education system is completely different. Yeah. It's very kind of industrial based as well, because you're next to the oil rigs. And it's very focused on industry. So coming back, it was like, oh my god! I had to do a little test to see if they could set me. Yeah. I went in full set for everything, low set for everything. I had to sort of work my way back up again, because everything I learnt before just didn't apply. So that was difficult. It wasn't so bad going within the same country, but going out to a different education.
Absolutely.
It was really
we'll say here. We would go here, there, and everywhere. You'd have even between Oxfordshire and Wiltshire. Yeah. They had different exam boards and stuff, and it was different thing and different emphasis. So, for me, I just kind of good luck. I don't know what I thought really, but you know, you did the bare minimum to not to get in too much trouble. Love the social aspect of it all, and you'd either make or break you. You either got that whole feeling of now you've made these mates, you're going to have to move on. And there's something to be said about it, because you can become quite flexible and adaptable. I think with some kiddies it destroyed them, and that hence some of them got sent to boarding school, which must have destroyed them even more. Although they might not say that these days, when they were crying in their beds, on the nights that they were alone and the nights that they weren't alone, they would have been thinking, damn you life, why can't I just stay at home with mummy? Anyway.
Because they got it half price.
They got it half price. This is exactly right. That's exactly what happened. We got it half price. So not a military life for you?
No. And like I said, I did try it. I did 2 years in it, and I kind of wanted to see how far I could go. Yeah. I got to my confirmation weekend, which is the weekend before you kind of get to that point. I did get quite far in it, and just thought, I don't think in my mind I could.
What was your dad like then for that? What was his thoughts when you were attempting it? It's a very private conversation now about your own family, but I just happen to know that your dad was like majorly respected. He was as fit as they come.
Well, he was obviously chuffed I was doing that. I think he was kind of like, I think he was also quite chuffed that I graduated, because I don't think that happened before in that line of family. Right. So I think he was kind of like, it'd be great if you can do it, but it's not the end of the world if you don't. Yeah. But I'm glad I did it, because it teaches you a lot, and you get to know your own limits, and you kind of, again, you get that camaraderie you won't get anywhere else. Yeah. Because you're in that sort of situation, but it's just one of those things where, like I said, I think I've started to graduate from university. I was working in a little chef, which is ironic because I was 6'6" and couldn't cook. And I was doing the reserves on the weekend. So I was just getting shouted at on the weekend. I was doing crap. It's not a crap job, but it was pretty. It's the worst performing little chef in the country at the time.
Oh, well, congratulations.
And it was just kind of like, I have to think, well, I've done something wrong here. So it was kind of like, this isn't what I set out to do. Yeah. It wasn't working out for me. The balance wasn't working for me. So yeah, I just had to. I tried to find another job, and I worked in Dyson for a few years.
Yeah.
But again, I had to try and build my portfolio up while that was happening.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like it's been a long road to get into that kind of industry.
Yeah. Well, it's hard work, but worth it.
Yeah, and I think it's a sort of anyone that's at university just embrace technology. That's all I can say really. Yeah. Just use it.
Yeah.
Don't shy away from
it. Absolutely. Right. Okay. Any wishes for the future? What's your big wish? Once everything, there's never going to go back, is there? And thankfully, it won't go back. You talked about our 21st Unlock Reset Festival. It's a psychological thing as well, because if there is a third lock or a third wave or whatever, which is almost inevitable, isn't it? I mean, if there is, that festival will be done online, and we've got some brilliant venues. The Cause, do you know the Cause? The actual art centre, Cause.
The band.
No, I was going to say that the Cause. No, that's another Irish band. Lovely. Terry Wogan was interviewed. No, the Cause, the art centre.
Yeah.
Right.
Cause,
so,
yeah.
The 3 Crowns. You ever go there?
Yeah.
Right. Brilliant. Fantastic pub, isn't it? So they're on board now. This place, the atrium here, so Emery Gate, Dickie and the good people at the Consti Club, Can Do Studio, Revo upstairs and downstairs, and the Old Road Tavern. So there will be from the whatever time of the day, different venues. There's going to be stuff happening and streamed in case people can't come out. So there will be something happening regardless. And maybe you can help us out on that day. That would be brilliant. But besides that, with the unlock, is one element. The reset for us is about we cannot do a lot of the things that we used to do, particularly around the environment, house building, road building, all that sort of stuff, HS2, all this crazy stuff that wasn't even a good idea then, which definitely can't happen now. We need to recalibrate and reprioritize. What would your big wish be?
For myself or for
your children, for our community.
Well, for my children, for my kids, it's that creative element. My son was at Riverside, the Riverbank.
Yeah, Riverbank. That's right.
And that's
I don't know if Tom's still here. He might.
He walked out.
Did he? Did you see him?
I saw him briefly.
Oh, right. No, it's funny because I did mention it to him. Riverbank.
Yeah, it was great.
Fantastic.
Amazing facility, and then it just kind of went.
There's a little bit more of a story between how it kind of went, but that needs to be so the reset would be stuff like that for me, chasing out that sort of rubbish.
But for the town as well. I don't know. I've obviously lived in Chippenham quite a long time. Yeah. I don't like the development that's going around it. Yeah. I find that quite depressing. Yeah. I'd like to see more facilities for kids. It's good to see the skate park. I've seen that pop up.
I'm a bit surprised about the other element though, the climbing wall, because we do a lot of consultation, and then I don't know where that came from.
Well, it floods all the time, so they need somewhere to get away from the water, don't they?
Now I do. Well done, Sam. You're all right. It'll be me that get drowned. There's a few people who hope I do. That's a bit of a strange one. Yeah. But yes, you're right. The skate park. There was the splash pad that was put in in John Cole's Park, which was never asked for. Should have been. The money should have been. We should have put a skate park in the park if it's that important. If we truly value. Unfortunately, we don't value our teenagers enough, and they're starting to realise that now. So, good luck to the councillors that have kept them oppressed for the last however many years.
I think that's been a big thing for me is my kids, because obviously I'm all right. I'm kind of like it's one of those things where you just think, well, okay, it's a pandemic, and we'll find a way through it. But the kids, it's that uncertainty.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think the fact they've been away from society for such a long time, it's like. Especially my daughter, I'm trying to get her back into kind of like.
How old are we talking?
She's 13.
Oh,
she's 12.
Right. But she's right in the zone where our local council, our local councillors previously, not the new ones, not the new independent ones certainly, but some of the councillors, some of the county council ideas, destroying the Bridge Centre, eradicating the youth service, it's just unforgivable. Now, if you haven't got kids and they're 12 or about to be 13, it's a bumpy all right. It can be, and it's made worse by bad decision making.
It's when you get to this section. It's when you get to this stage of their lives, you're thinking actually facilities like that are so important.
Absolutely.
And this lockdown has kind of just shown how much they need to keep. Otherwise, they get out the loop, and it's kind of very difficult to get back in again.
Well, really difficult.
So that's the kind of thing where I'm thinking, well, actually, do you know what? This is so important. It's the fact where you've got somewhere for kids to come and vent their frustration. Well, not have a fight and stuff, but get there.
They've got car parks that they can use. That car bunkle at the Sanders Mead or wherever it is. But they could. Well, they do. They hang out there. They hang out in the car parks down here. No one can see them. No one can protect them. Trust me, there's some really dark elements in Chippenham that most people, and definitely it would appear certain councillors, I don't know where they think we're living. All that is, we're all right, we've got the M4, but it's like, no. What about the drug dealing? What about the oppression of certain aspects of our local community, the lack of resources, the lack of support, the domestic violence, the sexual abuse, etc., etc. And that's before we get off the subject of the church. Now let's get on to the community. It's a worrying time to be a parent. It's always a worrying time to be a parent. It's also joyous, but it's for me, I can't hold back anymore because I've realised I've tried to be kind of, get it. I used to also think that county councillors volunteered, and I've only recently found out they get quite a good whack for it. And I'm thinking, if they don't do anything but do this for a living, how come they're not doing enough research around certain issues? And I definitely know they're not doing enough research around youth and community stuff because they ain't asking us, and we're right up there on a national level about how we work in different. We've been, but different governments have said, look at these people, they're really brilliant at doing what they do. Not these guys. They don't know what's going on, and they're not asking the right questions. So they need not to be in public office anymore because they're detrimental to the health and well-being of our communities. Thank you for that, Sam. But it's worrying, isn't it? Yeah. It's a really, let alone toddlers' speech and their social development going backwards. Teenagers, bless them.
It's kind of as almost as if it's too much hard work. So therefore, because it is, youth is a difficult thing to. Yeah. You're at the forefront of it, but it's you've got to get.
Personally, you mean? Oh, I see what you meant with working. Thought you meant I look particularly young there, Sam.
Well, you do, but
stop it, Sam! Stop it! Yeah, it's too harsh. It's too hard.
But yeah, that's the thing where I think that's the big element from Chippenham is the youth, is the engagement with the youth, because people kind of don't. If it's kind of like youth kind of skate parks, it's just like.
Put them somewhere out there. Out of the thing. You're not wrong. You're not wrong. I tell you what it is. If a lot of people around this place, not a lot, certain people that made decisions. Oh my God, we were asked years ago. Do you know where Redlands is? Mm-hmm. Right. We were asked by the then district council, the antisocial behaviour officer. I'll tell you, sort of that had roles like that, to do some work by the Redlands shops because loads of young people are hanging out there and I get it, senior citizens are intimidated because our society is so broken by Thatcher and the like that we don't have enough intergenerational projects. So we were tasked to go and address this issue by, I don't know what they thought we were going to do, but what we did is we went to these young people. Now that's a dangerous environment for anyone. So if these other people are worried about these young people, teenagers who've got nothing else to do but hang outside shops at Redland, intimidating people just by their presence, but no doubt there's a few swear words and whatever, and if people, confront them about that, of course they feel like the army do, like the RAF do, when they're a gang together, the police, when they're a gang, they go, hey, wait a minute, you don't talk to us like that, and then you have conflict, and there was conflict. So the anti-social behaviour officer said, can we do something? Now, within a very short period of time, it was an empty shop there. We had A, engaged, B, started developing a trusting relationship, which went on, thankfully, for years and still going with a lot of those young people, bizarrely, which is interesting. However, we got to the situation with that group of young people who were so, say, antisocial and scaring the horses, to agree that there was an empty unit, that they would co-run a community cafe that would be for all members of the community, but at a certain time in the day, it would just be for young people. So instead of it being a youth cafe, it would be for the senior citizens, mothers and toddlers, or young parents and toddlers. They were prepared to go and help dig people's gardens, senior citizens who obviously couldn't use their hands but had all the knowledge, grow food, use the excess from each of the gardens in the cafe. So there was cheap food, locally sourced, and they totally bought into it. They were totally okay to train, to do all health and safety, do everything you can think of to have a share in that. Guess what happened? Go on, Sam, I dare you. Or shall I cut this interview slightly short by saying we did all that, risked our personal safety, and then were told by the antisocial behaviour officer that the local councillor, and she was a Conservative at the time, now what's she now? I think she's in about, presumably she's not going to run anymore, but she might. So whoever that was, who was it? It doesn't matter, people can find out who it was. Told him to tell us that we couldn't do the community cafe or the youth cafe element of it because it would attract too many young people. Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to research. Hello, you. If not that, I want you to research this. I want you to research who was the councillor for Redlands when this is what I'm talking about. So think about that and see if they're trying to get re-elected and think, do we really want people who make those sorts of decisions running our community? I'll leave that to you. But that's what we're up against. We're up against people with vested interest or no understanding of what happens when you isolate young people. They don't have a vote, and they should. I'm going for this new idea of between 16 and 70 is when people should vote. No point after 70. I know you've got loads of knowledge, and I'm getting them near them myself. But you're not going to be around a long time for any of the decisions that you vote on, like Brexit and all that sort of stuff. Whether it was good, bad, or indifferent, I don't care. The idea that randomly old age pensioners, bless them, I'm nearly one myself, who aren't going to be living the consequences of their votes, but young people are. It's absurd. 16-year-olds should have votes up to 70-year-olds. But we cannot have a situation anymore where our local councillors have no criteria to be councillors other than, and some of them are brilliant, and as I keep saying this to every show we do, all the brilliant councillors, we love you and I will carry you on my shoulders, not a problem. Come and see me, not a problem. If you're insulted by what I'm saying, it's probably because you're not very good at being a councillor. That's just the plain, honest truth. But here's the crack. We need councillors now, and there's some great independent ones. I don't know if you've been seeing any of these podcasts that we've been doing. Right. Fair play to them for coming on this, because I'm a lunatic at the best of times, but I've been really impressed.
Well, I've seen them all.
You've seen them all?
Yeah.
Well, I'm more impressed. Here's some money.
But, I've had them, when I'm sort of working at my computer, I have them on my screen. It's just because it's the fact they're about an hour, aren't they? Each one of them.
Yeah, it kills these two, but yeah.
But I can imagine. But the fact that that's an hour is a good time to sort of really get a feel for someone and their intentions.
Yeah.
It's not a summary or a highlight. It's just you actually.
Absolutely, it's unfolding, isn't it? And I don't. You might be strange to find that I don't prepare any of these interviews. I'm playing off of what they're saying, listening to it. I have been really impressed. I have been really impressed, and particularly, I'd say, only because I just know. I don't think party politics has proven itself not to be a good use of our electoral time even. It's divisive, it's non-representative, hardly anyone gets involved. Even independent people are told, well, you're a politician, can't trust you. Look at the amount of sleaze. How much sleaze does Boris Johnson and all his mates have to be involved in before people sort of say, we cannot vote Conservative ever again? If you like people, if you like children, if you want the survival without conflict in our communities, it's like, it's not an option. These people are so far removed from our everyday lives. But these councillors on a local level, that's why I don't understand why they're in party politics. Who's impressed you? Go on, you're an independent person. Who can you think of?
I can't remember their names.
No, but if you draw a picture, you're good at animation, I'll tell you from the description. Oh yeah? Oh bloody hell, wait a minute. With no one like that. Oh,
big nose and a moustache.
Groucho Marx.
I think there was I can't remember. There was the guy, the chocolate guy, that was into sustainability.
Matthew Short. What isn't he? Absolutely, wasn't it? Superb. And the chocolate, by the way.
Yeah.
Now listen, he ain't paying me. None of them are. I do this quite happily, although the town council should be. He gave us some of that chocolate. Now imagine after all he'd said, imagine if that was awful.
Yeah.
And we'd been quite embarrassing. Yeah. Me and Jules, we like a little bit of vegan chocolate. Well, both of us were sitting, we're looking at each other going, wow, this is proper stuff. More importantly, as importantly, was the ethical, the lengths that guy and his company go to make that. And what he's saying, brilliant. He's saying it, he's walking the walk, talking the walk, he's even selling sustainable t-shirts and chocolate. Brilliant. Did you see Martin Casey?
Yeah.
Right, again, ex-soldier.
Yeah.
So he's more in our line of thinking, isn't it?
But again, it's like it's to actually sort of hear about their, the passion about even just the environment and everything else.
Yeah.
You don't generally hear that because it's usually, you need to sort of delve a bit deeper into it.
Yeah.
And that's what I found the podcast did. You can actually talk to have a one-way conversation, two-way conversation with someone, and actually sort of delve a bit deeper. But yeah, I mean, they're all really interesting to listen to.
We had a lot of Lib Dems. Now, I'm sorry that they're Lib Dems because as individual people, I really got on and thought they were fantastic. Jenny Budgell, Brian Matthew. See that one? Oh,
can't remember the names, but
Claire Kate. Right, brilliant. What was the geezer? Adrian Temple Moore, was it? Brown.
Adrian Temple Brown, he was the other day.
Yeah. Oh, where have these people been all our lives? These are absolute genius. He used to be a conservative. That's how enlightened that guy is, right?
Oh, the engineer.
Yeah, he used to be a conservative. It's like, well, I think it was like, look, he said, I totally bought into the whole Tory mantra, the whole conservative thing. Utterly just like, wow, okay, listen, I'm only saying as I know because I work up and down the country. Most people don't really get involved in community, don't really get involved in politics, that they don't really know. I'm not saying I know better. It's just like if I was a plumber or a dentist, you'd trust me, wouldn't you? Yeah. You wouldn't say, sorry, mate, I've got an opinion about what you're doing with teeth. It's like, mate, I've done this for 20 years, 25 years, whatever it is now. You ain't telling me, I'm telling you. Same thing about the councillors. That guy was unbelievable. James Bradbury, same thing. It's like, where? Okay, now they are coming out of the woodwork, and I guess I'm grateful. Really good people. You ever thought about that? Ever thought about representing or standing up for the?
I'm not really politically minded, to be honest. I mean, I wasn't, and that's why I quite enjoyed listening to these podcasts because it kind of engaged my interest in it.
Good. Good.
But I mean, just talking to the guy was saying he's doing all the maths. He's just like it's scary if you think if you work it all out.
Yeah.
It's nice to know there are people that are thinking that deep about this.
Oh my God! Shouldn't that be a criteria? What's the criteria for being a counsellor other than that you can breathe? It's like, wait a minute, come on, there's got to be more. What's your experience? Why? How can they be? Some of them, they're legislating for young people. They haven't even got kids. That is crazy. It's like this guy has got the portfolio for youth and community. And he hasn't got any children, and he's not a teacher because Pete Cousins, fantastic, again, ex-head teacher. He hasn't got kids, but he's dealt with them all his life. Pretty sure he knows a little bit about children. If you haven't, you can't apply for the job, surely. And your experience is, yes, I used to be a child. Congratulations.
I did a dissertation on children.
Exactly, but they didn't. That's what I'm saying. It's literally, used to be a salesperson, knows nothing about it, and next thing, we've got a big hole where there should be a facility. Hey, I tell you what, you're a good lad to talk to. I'd like to meet your father. Where is he?
He's in Cologne.
Is he?
Yeah,
oh my God, no, just because he's a bit of a legend. I know that's annoying, isn't it, when people tell you. Shay hates it when people talk to about his other granddad.
That's how I've experienced it.
Exactly. Well, damn you. You are lovely, mate. Get your young people here to come and use or the Can Do Studios or the ones downstairs with Tom Mallard, a wonderful Tom, because he's also working with Can Do now as well. So there's the double whammy.
Don't worry, when I can, I will. I'm leaving him here as well.
Yeah, and rightly so. Listen, mate, spot on. Really loved it. Ladies and gentlemen, Sam, and here comes Annie with lunch. Annie with lunch. Annie with lunch.